Hey everyone, welcome back to part 2 of the 5-part series on PLAYERUNKNOWN'S BATTLEGROUNDS. If you missed part 1, I will leave a link down below. But if you have already seen it, then let us continue. So, we are here to talk about solo gameplay and how to win. I will be going step by step from when you jump all the way to the end of the game on tactics that I use to win. First, I see where the plane is traveling and head to the location that suits me best. Commonly, this consists of the gun range maze, power plant, shipping yard, and military base, just because I find it more entertaining to fight people the whole time, and I personally like to get my gear fast. That said, the gun range and the power plant usually only have 2 other players there, unless the plane goes directly over it. But for the purpose of helping beginners, I would suggest going to some of the more remote locations where there aren't too many houses. If you use this strategy, you will be finding your equipment along the way, from other houses you pass by as you progress to the zone, and from other players you catch by surprise. The only really big downside to spawning in remote locations is having to move to the zone, unless you get lucky. Anyway, look for these locations where not many people have landed, and find a weapon. Once you have a gun, make sure you get at least level 1 of all the essentials. If you have landed in a remote town, you should be able to find what you need, seeing how you won't have to share. If not, look where the zone is heading and start moving to the buildings that are in these locations. Also remember to always count the players around you, so you know how many you should expect. When moving to the next area that you want to loot, listen for gunfire, and from this plan where you should be. A good example of this is, say you hear people to your right, but they are far off, and you have a hill to your right. Make sure you use the hill as cover and keep moving. Using the environment as natural cover in all modes is something that everyone should be familiar with, and should get used to doing. If you're moving through a town, and you hear this, but closer, you have 2 options that I recommend. 1, you can leave and head in a different direction, or you can watch the kill feed and make your move. If you pick option 2, there are a few things you should know. 1, how many other players does it sound like are fighting? 2, how far off is this from you? And 3, what guns can you hear? This is important because if it is close enough, and a player hasn't been killed yet, you might want to mop up what's left. The way to do this is by listening to the guns and reading the kill feed. If you hear the shots, and the kill feed shows the gun that was used, the other player will most likely be going to the body to loot it. This is when you should strike. But if you can't find the action, the best option might be to turn around and continue on in a different route. If you drop in a populated area, I recommend using this hunting technique. You want to make sure you are the only one left in the area. In solo, you have to remember that it is only you, so taking your time with your actions is important. Like I said in part 1, knowing when to strike is important, and in solos, it is the most important thing. Here, you want to make sure you get those one-on-ones and not be blindsided by another player. I would also say towards the end, I recommend shooting at other players that are also being shot at. Taking them out quickly before being seen is important. I also recommend striking other players when they're shooting at another enemy. Usually, they won't expect it. The only downside might be that if the player he is shooting at doesn't die, they might come back to kill you. This is why reading the kill feed and understanding the weapon being used is important. Also remember, they only have one set of eyes in this mode, and most battles are won by the player who fires first. Making sure that you have a combo that works well for you is also important. Overall, I recommend one close range and one long range. So, a shoddy/SMG and an assault rifle, or at the very least, one full auto gun and one semi. In solos, snipers are a lot less important. Engaging with a player at sniper distance usually gives away your position. Most of the time when I hear a sniper, I go hunt down these players, and others will do the same to you too. But veteran snipers that can get quick kills and at close range might still want to consider them. Using vehicles in this mode isn't a terrible idea. Luckily, only one player will be firing at you, not a whole team. That said, the largest downside is that in solos it is a lot harder to tell where people are hiding. So, if you do drive, you are telling everybody where you are. So be ready to fight as soon as you get out. Also, don't be afraid to Mad Max people and run them down with your car. Most of the time, they won't know what to do. Towards the very end of the game, when there are about 25 players left, is the most important time, when you need to be fully aware of your surroundings. When the circle is closing in here, I recommend taking it slow and using the environment to win. The high ground can be a major advantage when in the zone. Generally, you want to move on the slower side of the zone if you can. But if there is no cover on that side, use the side with the cover. Here I recommend moving around the zone's edge slowly and finding other players that are also hiding on the edge. You want to make sure you clear out your side so you don't need to worry about others around you. Ideally, this means only having to worry about what is in front of you. I generally sweep the sides, moving constantly around the outer edge to take out people that could get behind me or on the side of me. But remember, in solo, people are also a lot harder to spot, because they won't be in a full group. So, stick to cover, move from one to another, and always second guess where people could be. A lot of the time, I find people are just laying and waiting in this mode. When you are down to the final 3 players, wait to see if you can spot the other 2 people before opening fire. You don't want to give away where you are, only to not know where the other players are hiding. But, if you have to take out a player because they might kill you, then by all means do so. If you are lucky though, and are under fire, the other enemy player may kill your opponent, helping you and giving away their position. So, keep a watch for where the bullets are coming from, as well as listening for the direction. The best ending is knowing where the last player is and them not knowing where you are. If this is the case, just sit and wait, then pick the perfect moment when they are not ready to fight. If this is not the case, and neither of you know where the other player is, try to wait it out before moving. Scan the area, check all cover, long foliage, and shadows. If the player knows where you are, and you have to move to them, use the tactic of aiming and moving up. They will have to peek you, and you will be ready. But if the circle is closing in, quickly move from cover to cover. You don't want to die by the zone. Also, in this mode, don't bother with grenades unless you can throw them in complete cover or without other players seeing you. In solos, I really don't recommend going for crates unless you have a boat and it landed out to sea. In this mode, people usually always camp them. Plus, it is easier to take the items off of people's dead bodies. If a package is close by, expect people. I usually don't bother with them, just because even when I find crates that are super old, I find people camping them. In this mode, the risk does not outweigh the rewards. Also, if you only have crappy stuff and level 1 gear, don't fret. By following these steps, it doesn't matter. As long as you have the surprise, you should be able to win. But, at the end of the day, even with all these tips and tactics, I will say that 50% of this game is luck. This being when you first land, hoping that you find a gun to survive, and at the end when the zone is closing, by getting lucky when you don't have to move as far, and having people come to you. Anywho, thanks for joining me for part 2. If you want to see part 3, where I will be talking about duos, hit that subscribe button as well as the bell next to it. If you found any of this helpful, please give me a thumbs up. If you didn't find this helpful, you can give me a thumbs down. Leave a comment if this helped you win, or if you have other tactics that you use to do so. And please share this video to others to help them out too. Thanks again, and see you in the next one.